Hello, welcome to more dollar collapse news. As we can see, the dollar has lost its value ever since the Federal Reserve has been created. It used to be worth $1, it is now worth less than 4 pennies. Okay, dollar collapse news. First article I want to read comes from the OdysseyOnline.com. It's titled US Dollar as the World Currency is Slowly Collapsing. Since the Bretton Woods Conference of 1944, the US dollar was adopted in international trade in exchange for gold. Back then, the US was the largest oil importer and also held most of the world's gold supply. But in the early 70s, President Richard Nixon gave up the gold standard world reserve currency for the petrodollar. Now it is alleged that the petrodollar is collapsing, while gold and Chinese yuan are gaining momentum. If so, what impact will the death of the dollar have on the US economy? According to Currency Report, several countries, including Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Venezuela, South Korea, China, Russia, and Iran, are abandoning or considering abandoning the petrodollar. Some of those countries are trading in gold or in a currency of their choice, such as a cryptocurrency. Fed up with the U.S. hegemonic militarism and impertinent meddling in world affairs, BRICS countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa also had formed an economic bloc which is self sufficient and out of the realm of any other country's influence. For example, China, a BRICS nation, is the world's largest oil importer and second world economy. Now, with the eventual collapse of the dollar, China appears to have enough leverage to change the status quo or end altogether the standardization of oil trade to yuan. If the Chinese yuan replaces the US dollar in international trade, it will be a game changer, and China would move up a number to number one spot on the world economic ladder. If it is this case, the death of the dollar will have a seismic impact on the US economy. The United States would lose its status as the world's number one economy. Federal Reserve would not be able to print dollars as it used to. The inflation would soar. A severe recession would kick in. The stock market would crash. US treasuries and bonds would be less useful. The United States is a debt based economy, $20 trillion in debt. People buy on credit and incur heavy mortgages, etc. The US government is also deeply in debt. In such a situation, the government would be unable to turn things around. For the fact is, the markets is self-regulating, which means that if the economic principle of supply and demand cannot stabilize the dollar, the only option left for the United States is to declare war on Russia, China, or Iran. But it would be unjustly a petrodollar war. Let's take a retrospective glance at history. Saddam Hussein, ex-dictator of Iraq, requested to be paid in euro instead of dollar for its oil. Consequently, Iraq was invaded and Hussein was arrested and hanged. Also, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya wanted to be paid in gold instead of the dollar for its oil, so NATO countries took over Libya and Gaddafi was later killed. Coincidentally, going to war to save the US dollar is a decision that could lead to World War III. In fact, all major players, the United States, Russia, China, and their allies, are gearing up for World War III. The possibility of petrodollar collapse could be a pretext for a global conflict. Great article here. I'll go ahead and leave a link below if you could, so you can go ahead and read the whole thing if you would like. Okay. But it is true that these global reserve currencies do not last forever. The longest global reserve currency to last was 120 years, I believe. Prior to us was Britain's currency, um, and theirs lasted for 110 years. Okay, which was a long reign, too. Usually, currencies, global reserve currencies, last around 90 years, give or take 10 years. Okay, so with that said, ours is about to be done. We've been a global currency reserve for 94 years. So if we follow cycles in the past, we're about finished right now. Another article I wanted to read to you is from ToshiTimes.com, titled $250 billion asset manager suggests that cryptocurrencies could displace the US dollar as a global reserve currency. Now, wouldn't that be something? Okay. Now, it says the CEO of assets manager and financial advisory firm Lazard has recently been making headlines after comments that suggested that cryptos is contributing to a weakening of the US dollar as a global reserve. These comments come at a time when there is a series of potential threats that could potentially undermine the US dollar's role as a globally accepted reserve. Whilst cryptos hold great allure for those disillusioned by fiat currencies and central banks, the notion that cryptos could threaten the role of the US dollar, the world's most universally accepted currency, is notable. Definitely, there are nations and countries that are moving away from the dollar and they're using cryptos instead of the dollar, such as Venezuela. How Venezuela is tying their oil to their currency. Okay, and they're also using their um, crypto as well, and so are other uh, nations around the world too. One more, I'll leave a link so you can go ahead and check this whole article out as well. Another article I wanted to read to you would be, okay, this is one assets may hit 8.5% of global reserves by 2020. 2020, the proportion of one currency in global foreign reserves is expected to reach a staggering 8.5%, according to a recent survey on foreign reserves managers around the world. Economic Information Daily reported. The survey, conducted by an official magazine of the People's Bank of China, covers foreign reserves managers in 79 central banks, running a total of $5.5 trillion of foreign reserves and accounting for 54% of total global reserves. Compared to the results of the same survey 3 years ago, when the yuan was not included in the IMF's SDR currency basket, the respondents have since become much more optimistic about the yuan. 3 years ago, they predicted that the share of the yuan in global foreign reserves would be expected to reach 6.9% by 2020. According to the IMF, at the end of 2017, the proportion of yuan assets in global foreign exchange reserves was about 1.2%. So they have gone up dramatically since they had first started, and they have, as you can see right here, a ton of our foreign reserves, accounting for 50% of the global reserves. So they definitely have an upper hand on everybody else in the world. Okay, so if anybody's gonna take us out, it's definitely gonna be China. Hope you got something out of the video today. Please like and subscribe. I will leave a link below if you'd like to donate. I do have 2 videos per day, Monday through Friday, and 1 on Saturdays. You all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.